There are moments in life when we feel powerless, when situations seem beyond our control. Yet, the secret to turning these moments around often lies not in what we do outwardly, but in what we quietly declare within ourselves. Today, I want to teach you something simple, yet profoundly powerful. 11 words that, when spoken in silence, can shift your life. These are words you must guard, words you speak only to God and to yourself. They carry authority. They carry transformation. First, understand this: the power is not in the number of words, but in your faith as you speak them. Words spoken in belief are seeds planted in your spirit. They grow silently, producing results you may not immediately see. When you say these words, do not worry about who knows. The world does not need to witness your faith. Only God does. Speak them quietly, speak them consistently, and watch how your inner world begins to align with divine favor. Next, remember the importance of simplicity. Life can overwhelm you with complexity, but God's ways are often simple. These 11 words are a spiritual tool. They remind you to trust, to hope, to act in faith without being distracted by fear or doubt. As you speak them, meditate on each word. Let its meaning sink deep into your heart and allow it to guide your decisions, your attitude, your perspective. Consistency is key. It is not enough to speak these words once in a moment of desperation. Speak them daily, in your quiet times, in the stillness of your room or your heart. This builds faith. Faith that does not depend on circumstances. Faith that grows stronger with each silent declaration. You are training your spirit to recognize possibility, to embrace divine timing, and to walk boldly into your purpose. Finally, understand the unseen power of belief. When you speak in silence, you are speaking with conviction, free from distraction, free from judgment. These words activate the law of faith within you. They release hope, courage, and the assurance that change is on the way. Do not underestimate their effect. Every time you speak them, you are shaping your reality. Every time you believe them, you are moving closer to the life God has designed for you. So begin today. Speak these words. Speak them in silence. Speak them with expectation. And watch over time how what once seemed impossible becomes possible. Your faith, cultivated quietly and faithfully, will bring about extraordinary results. Remember, the power of your words is not in who hears them. It is in who they awaken inside you. There are moments in life when we feel completely powerless, when the challenges we face seem far beyond our ability to overcome, when every plan we make appears fragile, and when every step we take seems to lead to obstacles rather than progress. And it is precisely in those moments that the true potential of faith is revealed, because it is not the outward circumstances that define our strength, but the quiet declarations we make within our hearts, the words we speak in silence that carry unseen authority, and the beliefs we hold even when no one else is watching. These are the elements that shape our reality. For every word we utter, even in private, has a vibrational power that can alter our perspective, influence our decisions, and activate forces beyond our comprehension. And yet, most people overlook this simple truth, thinking that only loud prayers, public displays of devotion, or dramatic actions can make a difference, when in fact the most transformative words are often those whispered in solitude, the words that arise from genuine conviction, spoken in faith, and delivered without any desire for recognition, applause, or validation. Because when we speak quietly, we are able to concentrate our mind, focus our spirit, and allow every syllable to resonate deeply within our soul, creating an internal shift that sets the stage for external change. And it is in this silence that faith finds its purest form, for it does not depend on the reactions of others, the timing of the world, or the approval of society, but on the alignment of our hearts with truth, hope, and the higher purpose that drives us forward. And these words, though few in number, carry a unique power precisely because they are concise, intentional, and infused with belief. And when spoken consistently, they plant seeds in our spirit that grow into confidence, courage, and clarity, gradually transforming fear into assurance, doubt into understanding, and despair into expectation. And while it may seem almost too simple to be effective, the principle is clear. The life-changing power of faith begins in the heart, in the quiet moments when no one else is looking. And it is those moments that determine the course of our destiny, because while external circumstances are often unpredictable, the internal landscape we cultivate through our words, our thoughts, and our silent declarations is entirely within our control. And this inner cultivation allows us to navigate challenges with resilience, to respond to setbacks with hope, and to move forward with unwavering determination. And when we realize that our words are not just sounds, but spiritual instruments capable of producing tangible results, we begin to see every silent declaration as an opportunity to shift reality, to strengthen our mind, to direct our emotions, and to align ourselves with the possibilities that lie just beyond the visible horizon. And so the first step toward transformation is not in seeking external solutions or immediate recognition, but in embracing the quiet power of these words, speaking them with intention, and trusting that even when nothing appears to happen immediately, every sincere declaration is already working, activating forces, opening doors, and setting in motion events that will eventually manifest in our lives, proving that faith, cultivated in silence, is a force more reliable and enduring than any external circumstance, and that by taking ownership of this silent practice, we empower ourselves to face any challenge, achieve any goal, and become the person we were created to be, not through the eyes of others, but through the eyes of our own strengthened, disciplined, and unwavering spirit. First, it is essential to understand that the power of these words does not come from their number, their sound, or the volume with which they are spoken, but from the depth of belief and the sincerity behind each utterance. For words spoken without faith are merely empty sounds, but words spoken in quiet confidence, with expectation and trust, have the potential to alter the course of life, to shift circumstances, and to open doors that seemed firmly closed. And this is why even silent declarations can be more powerful than loud proclamations, because when spoken in solitude, free from distractions, judgment, and external influence, they allow the mind to focus completely on the intention behind the words, enabling the speaker to channel inner energy, align thoughts with purpose, and cultivate a sense of inner authority that radiates outward even without being seen or acknowledged by others. And this alignment is crucial because true transformation begins on the inside, and it is the internal shift that eventually produces visible results, shaping relationships, opportunities, and the overall quality of life. And yet, many people underestimate the effectiveness of quiet, consistent words, mistakenly believing that only grand gestures or public declarations can bring change, when the reality is that the most profound breakthroughs often begin in silence, in the private moments, when one decides to speak with conviction, knowing that no one else needs to hear, approve, or validate the message. For the unseen and unrecognized efforts of faith often have the greatest impact, quietly preparing the ground for remarkable outcomes, building resilience, strengthening resolve, and reinforcing the belief that obstacles are not permanent and that every challenge carries within it the seeds of opportunity. And as these words are repeated in solitude, they gradually shape thought patterns, replacing doubt with assurance, fear with courage, hesitation with determination, and confusion with clarity, because repetition in quiet reflection embeds these truths into the subconscious mind, gradually reprogramming perception and behavior so that the individual begins to naturally act in ways that reflect the promises spoken silently. And this is where the true power of these 11 words lies. They serve as a spiritual and mental anchor, a constant reminder of hope, potential, and divine favor, keeping the heart aligned with higher principles and encouraging the mind to see solutions where before only problems existed. And while the effect may not be immediately visible, it is already at work, influencing thoughts, shaping attitudes, and subtly guiding decisions in alignment with purpose. And this teaches the valuable lesson that faith does not always need an audience to be effective, that real power often works quietly, and that lasting change originates from personal discipline, consistent practice, and unwavering belief. For when words are spoken with genuine intent in private, they cultivate a spiritual momentum, building an invisible force that eventually manifests in tangible results. And this process also develops patience, perseverance and trust. Because as the seeds of faith take root, growth is gradual, and the individual learns to rely not on external affirmation, but on inner certainty, which becomes a source of strength, stability, and confidence. And ultimately, it is this inner alignment, nurtured through silent, purposeful words, that empowers one to face life's challenges with courage, to recognize opportunities when they appear, to make decisions guided by wisdom, and to experience a deeper sense of peace and fulfillment, proving that the words we speak quietly, with intention and belief, are not just expressions, but instruments of transformation that reshape both our inner world and the world around us. Next, it is important to recognize the profound impact of simplicity in spiritual practice, because life often overwhelms us with complexity, expectations, and distractions. And many times we search for elaborate solutions to problems that require only a focused heart and consistent action. And this is why these 11 words, though brief, hold immense power, because simplicity allows the mind to concentrate, the heart to believe, and the spirit to receive, without being encumbered by unnecessary details or mental noise. And when a person embraces simplicity in spiritual practice, they begin to see that transformation does not always come through grand gestures, intricate rituals, or constant outward activity, but rather through intentional focus, consistency, and alignment with truth. And these words, when spoken thoughtfully, quietly, and regularly, serve as a tool to cultivate such alignment, reminding the individual to trust in the unseen, to place hope in what is possible, and to act in accordance with faith, even when circumstances suggest otherwise. And as they meditate on each word, letting it sink deeply into their consciousness, the individual begins to experience a gradual shift, an inner recalibration, where fear, doubt, and confusion are replaced with clarity, confidence, and determination. And this is not merely a temporary change, but a foundation upon which lasting growth and transformation are built, because repeated focus on meaningful, simple declarations rewires thought patterns, reinforces positive beliefs, and strengthens the connection between intention and outcome. And while the words themselves are few, their impact is multiplied by the consistency, attention, and belief that accompany them. And this demonstrates that spiritual and personal growth often hinges not on the quantity of effort, but on the quality, precision, and depth of engagement. And as the individual continues this practice, they begin to notice subtle changes, not just externally in circumstances, but internally in their perception, decision-making, and emotional resilience. And this internal transformation is essential because external outcomes are often a reflection of the inner state. And when the heart and mind are aligned with principles of faith, hope, and purpose, the actions one takes naturally produce results that mirror these beliefs. And simplicity in this process prevents distraction, keeps the focus sharp, and allows the individual to fully inhabit the power of each word, to internalize its meaning, and to experience the momentum it generates in thought, attitude, and spirit, and over time. This momentum accumulates, creating a profound and lasting effect that touches every area of life, influencing relationships, work, opportunities, and personal fulfillment. And it is through the regular, disciplined practice of speaking these words quietly and thoughtfully that one begins to develop patience, perseverance, and a deep sense of trust in the process, understanding that change often takes time and that faith is strengthened not by immediate results, but by consistent, intentional engagement. And as this practice becomes a daily habit, the individual learns to recognize the unseen workings of possibility, the subtle shifts in circumstances, and the guidance that arises from aligning thoughts and actions with truth. And ultimately, this emphasis on simplicity demonstrates that even the smallest, quietest acts of faith, when practiced intentionally and consistently, have the capacity to produce remarkable transformation, teaching that spiritual power is accessible to anyone willing to embrace it, to focus, and to act in alignment with belief, because true change always begins within. Through repeated, deliberate, and mindful declarations that shape not just the day, but the course of a life. Finally, it is crucial to understand the unseen, but undeniable power of belief, because belief is the engine that gives life to every word we speak, the force that transforms silent declarations into real, tangible outcomes. And yet, many people fail to realize that true power often operates quietly, away from the eyes of the world, in moments when faith is exercised without expectation of recognition, applause, or immediate results. And this is why speaking in silence is so effective, because it removes external distractions, pressures, and influences, allowing the heart and mind to focus entirely on the meaning and intent behind the words. And when words are spoken in this manner, with complete conviction, they tap into a deeper spiritual reality, activating forces within us that align thought, emotion, and action with possibility and divine guidance. And while it may seem invisible at first, the effects are profound, for silent belief strengthens the inner foundation of character, cultivates patience, develops resilience, and reinforces the certainty that circumstances are not permanent, and that transformation is already underway even if it is not immediately apparent. And this is a lesson that cannot be underestimated, because the world often measures success by visible outcomes, numbers, or public acknowledgement. Yet the most significant victories, the deepest growth, and the most lasting results are often produced quietly in the unseen hours, when faith is nurtured, courage is built, and determination is reaffirmed. And as these 11 words are spoken silently and consistently, they embed themselves into the consciousness, gradually reshaping perceptions, attitudes, and decisions, so that every thought, every action, and every choice becomes aligned with the reality the speaker is declaring in faith. And this alignment is what transforms ordinary individuals into people capable of extraordinary accomplishments, because the invisible cultivation of belief creates a momentum that eventually manifests in tangible ways, shaping opportunities, influencing relationships, and opening doors that were previously unseen or inaccessible. And while the process requires patience and discipline, it also develops a deep inner confidence, a certainty that does not depend on external validation, but on the knowledge that the power of faith, properly applied, is active and working even when circumstances suggest otherwise. And as this practice continues, the individual begins to perceive life differently, recognizing potential where others see limitation, discovering solutions where others see obstacles, and approaching challenges with a mindset of expectation rather than fear. And this transformation is the result of consistent, intentional belief, reinforced through silent repetition and heartfelt conviction, which serves as both a training ground and a launch pad for personal growth, spiritual development, and practical success. And the principle here is simple yet profound words, when spoken with faith, even in silence, are not mere expressions, but instruments of change capable of shaping thought, influencing outcomes, and activating hidden potential. And when this power is combined with patience, focus, and consistency, it produces results that can surpass what most people imagine possible, teaching the invaluable lesson that the true source of influence does not always rely on visibility or recognition, but on the integrity, conviction, and steadfastness of belief practiced quietly, daily, and with unwavering expectation. And ultimately, it is this disciplined, silent practice of declaring faith that empowers an individual to face life's uncertainties with courage, to move steadily toward purpose, and to experience the fulfillment that arises when inner belief and outer reality begin to align in powerful and transformative ways. So begin today, for every journey of transformation begins with a single step. And in this case, that step is the intentional, quiet speaking of these 11 words, spoken in silence with complete faith and expectation. And while it may feel simple, almost too simple to be significant, it is precisely this simplicity that allows the words to penetrate deeply into your heart and mind, fostering belief that becomes the foundation for lasting change. And it is important to remember that the power of these words is not dependent on anyone else's recognition, approval, or understanding, for their effectiveness lies in the sincerity with which they are spoken, the consistency with which they are repeated, and the belief that underlies every declaration. And as you begin to practice this, you will notice subtle changes in the way you perceive situations, respond to challenges, and make decisions, because silent, intentional words cultivate a mindset of expectation, a mindset that anticipates results and remains confident even when circumstances suggest otherwise. And this mindset is essential, for life rarely unfolds in predictable ways, and those who succeed consistently are not those who rely solely on visible evidence or external validation, but those who maintain faith, act in alignment with truth, and persevere through uncertainty. And by speaking these words in silence, you are training yourself to focus, to trust, and to internalize a vision of what is possible, allowing belief to take root where doubt once dominated. And this internal shift is the beginning of transformation, because change always begins within. And when your inner world aligns with faith, clarity, and expectation, your external world gradually follows suit, manifesting opportunities, solutions, and circumstances that reflect the convictions you have nurtured in private. And while the results may not be immediate, consistent practice builds momentum, slowly but surely transforming thought patterns, reinforcing positive behaviors, and strengthening your ability to persevere, adapt, and act wisely. And as you continue to engage in this practice, you begin to experience a deeper sense of peace and assurance, knowing that unseen forces are already working on your behalf, that your declarations are producing tangible effects, and that your commitment to faith, discipline, and intentionality is shaping outcomes beyond what you can currently perceive. And this teaches the invaluable principle that patience, perseverance, and consistent action in alignment with belief are more powerful than immediate gratification, external validation, or outward appearances. And it also cultivates a resilience that equips you to face setbacks with courage, to view obstacles as opportunities for growth, and to remain steadfast in pursuit of your purpose. And as this process continues, the quiet words you speak become a source of strength, a reminder of potential, and a guide for daily living, shaping not just outcomes, but character, perspective, and the overall quality of your life. And this practice, though simple, is profoundly transformative, because it emphasizes intentionality, faith, and consistency over noise, distraction, and superficial measures of success. And ultimately, by committing to speak these words daily, quietly, and with expectation, you are activating a process that gradually aligns your inner convictions with outer reality, empowering you to live a life that reflects the best of your potential, demonstrates the strength of belief, and manifests the extraordinary results that come when quiet, disciplined faith is applied with intention, focus, and unwavering confidence, showing that the power to shape your life begins with the simple, silent, and consistent expression of faith within your own heart. As you continue this practice, it is vital to recognize that the power of these words is not simply in their repetition, but in the alignment they create between your heart, mind, and spirit. For true transformation occurs when belief, intention, and action converge, and speaking these words silently allows you to cultivate that alignment in a focused, deliberate manner, free from distraction, external influence, or the need for recognition, and this alignment is essential because it establishes an internal consistency that becomes the foundation for both personal growth and practical success. And while life often presents challenges that seem overwhelming, the quiet repetition of words rooted in faith equips you to face these situations with clarity, courage, and a sense of anticipation rather than fear, doubt, or hesitation. And as you internalize the meaning of each word, reflecting deeply on its significance and allowing it to resonate throughout your consciousness, you begin to experience subtle shifts in your perception, attitude, and behavior, which in turn influence the outcomes you see externally. And this is why silent declarations are so powerful. They work from the inside out, creating changes in the way you think, feel, and respond. And these changes gradually manifest as tangible results, opening doors of opportunity, attracting favorable circumstances, and revealing solutions that were previously hidden or obscured. And it is important to remember that this process requires patience, persistence, and discipline, because faith and transformation are cultivated over time, not through a single act or moment, but through consistent, deliberate practice, repeated daily with sincerity, focus, and expectation. And as this practice becomes integrated into your routine, it fosters a deeper sense of trust in yourself, in the process, and in the unseen forces that are already at work, aligning situations, relationships, and events in ways that reflect the declarations you have made quietly and faithfully. And this trust builds resilience, enabling you to navigate setbacks with calm, approach obstacles with creative problem solving, and maintain perspective even in the midst of uncertainty. And as your confidence in the process grows, the words themselves take on a life of their own, becoming a source of guidance, inspiration, and reinforcement that strengthens your decisions, actions, and attitudes. And this internal reinforcement is critical because the mind and spirit are intricately connected, and what is cultivated within inevitably influences what is manifested externally, meaning that the consistent, intentional speaking of these words quietly is simultaneously shaping your inner character and your external reality. And over time, the cumulative effect of this produces profound transformation, because the small, disciplined acts of faith compound, gradually rewiring thought patterns, reinforcing positive beliefs, and building an internal momentum that naturally leads to achievement, success, and fulfillment. And this momentum also cultivates patience, understanding, and wisdom, teaching that true power does not rely on immediate results or external validation, but on steady, faithful, and consistent alignment with truth and purpose. And ultimately, this disciplined practice of speaking words in silence becomes more than a spiritual exercise. It becomes a lifestyle, a mindset, and a guiding principle, shaping every decision, influencing every interaction, and directing every action toward outcomes that are consistent with your deepest convictions, demonstrating that the consistent, intentional cultivation of inner belief through silent words is one of the most powerful tools available for personal transformation, spiritual growth, and the realization of a life aligned with purpose, potential, and extraordinary results. Finally, as you fully embrace this practice, it is essential to understand that the act of speaking these 11 words in silence is not merely a ritual or a fleeting exercise, but a transformative discipline that cultivates an enduring mindset, reshapes your inner landscape, and gradually aligns your thoughts, emotions, and actions with your highest potential. And this alignment is the cornerstone of personal growth, spiritual strength, and meaningful achievement, because the inner world always precedes the outer world. And when your beliefs, intentions, and declarations are consistent, focused, and infused with faith, they begin to create a ripple effect that influences every area of your life, subtly shifting circumstances, attracting opportunities, and opening doors that may have seemed firmly closed. And it is in the quiet repetition of these words, spoken with sincerity, expectation, and full attention, that the seeds of change are planted, for each word carries a weight far beyond its letters, a spiritual and psychological force that penetrates deeply into your consciousness, reshaping thought patterns, reinforcing positive behaviors, and gradually replacing fear, doubt, and hesitation with courage, clarity, and confidence. And as this inner transformation takes root, you begin to notice changes, not only in your external circumstances, but also in the way you perceive challenges, make decisions, and engage with the world, because the mind trained through silent, purposeful declarations becomes sharper, more resilient, and better equipped to recognize solutions, seize opportunities, and act decisively in alignment with your goals. And while these changes often occur subtly, over time they compound, producing remarkable shifts in character, perspective, and outcomes, teaching the invaluable lesson that consistency, intention, and belief are far more powerful than immediate results, recognition, or outward validation, and that true transformation is cultivated from within, silently and deliberately, one faithful act at a time. And as you continue this practice, you develop a heightened awareness of the unseen forces at work, an understanding that circumstances are often influenced by factors beyond what is immediately visible, and a confidence that the declarations you make with faith are already activating pathways toward success, fulfillment, and purpose, even before the results become apparent. And this understanding cultivates patience, perseverance, and trust, because the individual who has learned to rely on the power of consistent, silent faith knows that setbacks are temporary, obstacles are surmountable, and progress, though sometimes gradual, is inevitable when aligned with intention and belief. And as the practice becomes habitual, It transforms from a simple exercise into a lifestyle, one in which the mind, heart, and spirit are continually aligned with principles of hope, purpose, and faith, shaping decisions, guiding actions, and influencing interactions in ways that reflect the inner reality being cultivated, and the cumulative effect of this disciplined, intentional practice is profound, producing a life that is increasingly characterized by clarity, resilience, empowerment, and consistent achievement. And it demonstrates that the most powerful force in personal transformations is not external circumstances, external approval, or visible evidence, but the disciplined, intentional cultivation of inner belief, reinforced through consistent, purposeful, and faith-filled words spoken silently. And ultimately, this practice empowers you to take ownership of your life, to face uncertainty with confidence, to act with courage, and to experience fulfillment on a level that is consistent with the depth of your convictions, showing that the path to extraordinary results begins within, with deliberate, quiet, and consistent expressions of belief, expectation, and faith that over time shape both your inner world and the reality around you in profound and lasting ways.